When did you first hear punk rock?
Probably 84.
Yeah.
Well, I keep trying to get this story right chronologically, and I just can't. I remember I heard I found Sandinista at the library.
Yeah.
And I hated it.
Yeah.
And I thought, if this is what punk rock is, then I don't want to have anything to do with it. And
it's not good rock.
It's too bad because, I wanted to hear punk rock forever. I mean, ever since Creem started covering like the Sex Pistols' last tour. I mean, I would read about them and just fantasize about how amazing it would be to hear this music and to be a part of it, And I was like 11 years old, and I couldn't possibly follow them on the tour or anything, and the thought of just going to Seattle was just impossible. It was 200 miles away. My parents took me to Seattle probably 3 times in my life, from what I can remember, and that was always on a family trip, So I was always trying to find punk rock, and of course they didn't have it in our record shop in Aberdeen. And then Buzz Osborne, actually, I probably bought like Devo and Oingo Boingo and stuff like that, new wave stuff. That finally leaked into Aberdeen many years after the fact, Then finally Buzz Osborne in '84, who had been a friend of mine off and on between Montesano and Aberdeen, because I'd moved so much. Yeah. And he lived in Montesano the whole time, and he made me a couple compilation tapes that had Black Flag and Flipper and just everything, all just about everything you can think of, all the most popular punk rock bands, and I was completely blown away. I finally found my calling, It was like that very same day I decided to cut my hair, and I would lip sync to those tapes, and I wore them out. I had them, and I played them every day, It was the greatest thing. And I'd already been playing guitar by then for a couple of years, and I was trying to play my own style of punk rock, what I thought it would be. I knew it was fast, and it had a lot of distortion. But there were so many different things going on at once, because it expressed the way I felt socially and politically and just everything. It was the anger that I felt, the alienation. For so many years I just couldn't understand why, although I listened to Aerosmith and Led Zeppelin, and I really did enjoy, and I still do enjoy some of the melodies that they've written, some of the songs, but they're definitely lacking something. And it took me so many years to realize that it was just, a lot of it had to do with sexism and the way that they just wrote about their dicks and having sex, And that stuff bored me.
When did you start to think about all that? I mean, it's very unusual for people in rock bands to think in that way. Where did you start to think about all that stuff? Did that come through punk?
No, it was before that. I don't know. Because I couldn't find any friends, male friends that I felt compatible with. I ended up hanging out with girls a lot, and I just always felt that they weren't treated equally, and they weren't treated with respect, especially because of the way that Aberdeen treated women. I mean, just in general, women are totally oppressed in small towns like that and all over America. I mean, the word bitch and cunt were totally common. I mean, you'd hear it all the time. And but it took me years after, it took me many years after the fact of realizing that those were the things that were bothering me. And I was just starting to understand what really was pissing me off so much. And then within that year, or those last couple of years of high school, then punk rock was exposed, and then it all came together. It just fit together like a puzzle, and I finally, admitted to myself that I am not retarded, you know.
Did you have, when you started to hang out, did you have problems with people thinking that you were gay?
Yeah, I even thought that I was gay. I mean, I thought that might be the solution to my problem at one time during my high school years. Although I never experimented with it. I had a gay friend, and actually that was the only time that I ever experienced real confrontation from people. Because for so many years, you know, like I said, they were afraid of me, basically. And when I started hanging out with this person who was known to be gay, I started getting a lot of shit and people threatening to beat me up and stuff. And then my mother wouldn't allow me to be friends with him anymore because, well, she's homophobic.
So did you stop?
Yeah, I couldn't hang out with him anymore. And it was
That's dreadful.
real devastating because finally I found a male friend who I actually hugged and was affectionate to, and we talked about a lot of things, and I was just starting to, you know, at that time, right around the same last 3 years of high school, you know, I was putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, and he played a big role in that.
What's his name?
His name is Meyer Lofton. I haven't spoken to him for years. I heard that he's still in Aberdeen, of all places, which is really surprising to me.
Maya.
Yeah.
M-E-Y-E-R.
M-E-Y-E-R.
Yeah. Wow.
And he hung out with this exchange student. His name was Pachi, and you know, no one liked him because he was Spanish. And they had a friend who was a lesbian. I can't remember her name. And we were friends for a few months until my mother found out that he was gay and banned him from the house.
You put quite provocative gay statements into a couple of the lyrics. Is that sort of a reflection of that time, really? I love that shout of God is gay at the end. Stay away.
I wouldn't say it's a reflection of those times, really. It's just I'm just carrying on with my beliefs now, you know.
Very provocative.
Well, I guess it is in a commercial sense because of how many albums we've sold. And in all apologies on this album, one of the lines is everyone is gay.
Have you ever had any problems with that from other acts or from people in the industry or even fans? Just being pro-gay and pro-feminist?
Never. No. Never. Pansy Division covered Teen Spirit and reworked the words "smells like queer spirit" and thanked us on their liner notes. And I think it said something like "Thank you to Nirvana for being the most pro-gay, for taking the most pro-gay stance and the most commercially successful rock band." You know.
It's a really big news, you know.
It was that was a real flattering thing to see. It's just that it's
really
nothing new to. It's nothing new to any of my friends or you know, because of the music we've been listening to for the last 15 years. But yeah, I suppose it is different nowadays. But I mean, even that, I don't know. Do you ever watch MTV?
Yeah.
Well, they have these Free Your Mind segments during the news hour.
Yeah.
That usually they report on gay issues and stuff like that, and pretty much in subtle ways remind everyone of how sexist the wave of heavy metal was throughout the entire 80s, because all that stuff is, it's completely dead almost, or it's dying very fast.
Yes.
And I find it really funny to see a lot of those groups like Poison and, well, not even Poison, but like Warrant and Skid Row and bands like that to be desperately clinging on to their old identities, but now trying to have an alternative angle on their music. And it gives me a small thrill to know that I've helped in a small way to get rid of those people, or to at least maybe make them think about what they've done for the last 10 years. Nothing has changed really, except for some bands like Soul Asylum who have been around for like 12 years or who knows how long, have been struggling in bars forever, and now they've had this opportunity to have their pretty faces on MTV, you know.